Chapter 7. Adam pulled into the empty parking lot around midnight as the rain lightly fell on his truck. The cop car stopped behind him. Adam kept his eyes on the dark mall directly ahead of him. He'd stopped right in the middle of the lot, which was slightly hilly, and wished he hadn't run that red light. The lights usually switched to blinking yellows at this time, but before they did, they tended to stay red for way too long. Adam had waited impatiently for 5 minutes before finally turning left at the intersection just outside the mall. The cop had appeared out of nowhere a few seconds later. Adam rolled down his window just as the cop started walking toward him, but he never walked all the way up to the truck. "Just stopped to tell you your driver's side tail light is out," the cop yelled over the rain. Adam sighed with relief. "Oh, really?" he shouted back. "Yep, have a nice night." The cop waved and went back to his car. Adam laughed as he rolled the window back up. The North Chase Mall was a small, ancient place on its last legs. Most of the stores inside had closed up, and the few that remained were merely waiting until their leases were up. It was a very depressing place to work. It was also mildly unsettling. Adam parked his truck just outside the loading dock that served as the entrance for security. Another car was in this little parking area. The officer Adam was relieving. It was 10 to midnight when he walked into the mall, dressed in his crisp black uniform. The security office was located just inside, in a bunker-type area that probably would have survived a nuclear blast. There were no windows, and cell phone reception was pitiful, but Adam never had anyone to call at midnight anyway. "Hey," said Rosie, a redhead around his age. She sat at a computer, playing solitaire. "Hey, anything special happen while I was away?" He'd been away for 3 days. "An alarm keeps going off, but it's always a false." She glanced at the control panel next to the computer. "Just hit silence if it does it again. Be ready for it to go off. The thing is loud as hell and will scare the shit out of you." "Will do." "Oh, and all the doors are closed. Just finished checking them." Rosie hefted herself from her seat, gathered her belongings, and exited the office, leaving Adam alone. He sat in the vacant chair, still warm from her big butt, and pulled out a few video game magazines. He also pulled out a soda and a bottle of energy supplements. The red pills were originally used to assist in his daily workouts at the gym. Now they were used to help him stay awake during his graveyard shifts. He knew he wasn't supposed to mix the pills with other sources of caffeine, but taking them with the soda gave him an incredible boost. Unfortunately, once that boost wore off 4 hours later, he was left extremely tired. Therefore, he took advantage of it while it lasted. A week after getting the job, Adam started to walk circuits around the entire mall after his first set of perimeter checks. There were 3 sets of checks in all, and they consisted of making sure all doors were secured and all fire extinguishers were up to code. It was tedious work, but it was easy. There were 4 main entrances, Alpha, Beta, Delta, and Omega, and he hated checking those because he always worried someone would be standing there just outside the mall, staring at him. Around 1 a.m., he grabbed a flashlight, a set of keys, and the work cell phone and left the office. He first checked the dock door he had entered. Rosie had left it ajar moments before he'd arrived, just as Adam would do for his relief in the morning. That door was completely closed now, as it should be. He then checked another door located down the same hall as the security office, though that door led to a path that ran past some gated generators. The door was not closed. Adam stared at it for a moment, with nothing but long, empty hallway behind him. Rosie had told him all the doors were closed before she left, hadn't she? Had she missed one? Suddenly, the empty hall didn't feel so empty. Was something, breathing on the back of his neck? He spun around and found nothing. "Jesus Christ!" he yelled, his heart racing. He could have sworn someone had been right behind him. His mind playing tricks, perhaps? He pulled on the push bar until the door caught, and then he ventured into the main area of the mall. It was long, but not very big. Only one floor. Adam could hear the working fountain that resided at one end of the building. Sound carried very well when the mall was this empty. It took him only 45 minutes to complete his checks, and he usually saved the outside doors for last. For some reason, he dreaded going outside tonight. Perhaps it was the open door he'd found. Had Rosie simply missed it, even though it was the closest one to the office? Had someone snuck in? Adam hoped he was alone in this building. He liked not having to deal with people, a luxury the day guard didn't have. Adam didn't know how much longer the building would last. It was scheduled for demolition in the foreseeable future, but no one knew when exactly. Surprisingly, he felt better when thinking about his uncertain future. It took his mind off that open door. Once he finished with the inside checks, he prepared himself for the outside. He stood at a door, getting ready. He couldn't explain why he was so nervous tonight, of all nights. During the 3 weeks he'd worked there, nothing had happened. And nothing would happen tonight, he told himself. He pushed on the bar and stepped out into the chilly night. The rain had stopped. He made sure to push the door completely closed, the key ready in his hand for quick re-entry. He was standing on a path hidden by huge bushes. There were several doors along one wall and one door at the end of the path. Much to Adam's dismay, that path angled drastically to the right, and he couldn't see around it until he got to the curve. Even worse, the lights around that corner had burned out long ago. If not for his flashlight, he would be blind. His heart began to race once again when he started down that long, dark path around the corner. He shined the flashlight's beam down. 3 of the doors on his left seemed fine, and he contemplated leaving them alone. Then he saw the one door at the end, the storage closet. It was open. "Son of a bitch," Adam whispered as he slowly made his way to it. He kept a close eye on the bushes to his right, hoping nothing would jump out at him. He also hoped he wouldn't get bitten by a spider or any deadly insects. Rosie had told him a story about being bitten by a spider on this very path one day. That story had a disgusting ending Adam wished he could forget. After an eternity, he reached the open door. It was painted cyan, like all the outside doors, and it faced him directly. If not for the angle of shadow on the door from the overhead moon, Adam wouldn't have known it was open at all. He wanted to push it closed, but he knew he had to actually check inside. He just didn't want to. He placed a hand on the doorknob, did a quick check to make sure no one was behind him, and then yanked the door open. There was nothing inside but junk. The storage closet was fairly small, most of the space taken up by boxes. Once he was satisfied, he closed the door and locked it.